Hi, everyone out there. This is Lou Antonetti. Welcome to another edition of Mindset Match, how to elevate yourself in the game of life. This is our monthly install. This is for October. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for listening on the Sachem Public Library YouTube channel. During this session, we're going to speak about something very simple. And I think in life, you need to keep things simple. And when you mention life, you only get one life. And that's something that I think a lot of people forget. And we're going to get into some specifics about how we can reflect and remember how important our one life is. Because a lot of us have plenty of time, but we tend to waste our time. And you don't have to maximize every single moment of every day and make yourself crazy about it. But I think the way that we think, the way we act, the way we reflect, the way we treat others, the way we treat ourselves, you think a lot differently when you wake up every day and say, listen, I only get one shot at this. And when you constantly remind yourself of that and not just go into every day and drudge through or go into every day and take everything in that day for granted, that's something that can really take you a lot farther and help you reach your potential and greater potential each day and each day going forward. So I usually, when I wake up in the morning, I used to not do this, but it actually happened this past year. I just said, hey, you get one life. And when you say that to yourself every day, that's a strong message to send to yourself. That's not saying, hey, I'm tired, let's wake up a little bit, or hey, let's get through this day and tomorrow we could rest. Yeah, you're going to have your moments of rest, but don't look forward to those, because obviously we're all going to have our eternal rest at some point. But now we're here. Let's make the most of it. I think we were all created to be creative. Hopefully that came across right. We're here. We're visitors in this place we call Earth, on this land. This is something that it gets a lot deeper than I think we think about, and we take things for granted each day, like I said. But hopefully, after listening to a few of these slides, you can realize that it's more important than you think. It's treating people with in the right manner is more important than you think. But it all starts with you and that mindset. And your reality is based on your perspective. So however you think, that's how your reality is. And we need to remember that each and every day of our lives. So enjoy. And again, thank you for joining us in this Session 5, the October edition of Mindset Match. So for our first slide in this session, it's unique because usually I'll try to provide some advice or some tips or things that I do from my life that maybe you could take bits and pieces from to help yourself. I'm not saying I have all the answers, and I had a lot of questions. My age right now, I'm a ripe age of 42. So some of these things I didn't realize until I was in my mid-30s. But I think with experience comes a little bit of wisdom. Making mistakes helps you acquire some wisdom, and you learn a lot from your mistakes. And if you have that mindset, you will learn from the mistakes and you'll get a lot out of it. And usually the answers you're looking for are in those mistakes. But a lot of the questions that I had, I'd like to put on this slide here. And so I'm going to basically ask a lot of questions right now. You can re-listen to this if you want to or slow it down. But you get one life. So some things you might want to ask yourself. And some seem pretty simple. But one, what are you eating, putting in your body to help you live a long life? What are your thoughts about yourself? What do you see in the mirror? Not just physically, but mentally behind your eyes. Are you holding any grudges against people? And are those grudges worth it for the short one life that we have? What are you spending your money on? Are you spending your money on extravagant things or things that you need to survive? Are you spending it on expensive pocketbooks, belts, pants? Is it really worth it? Another thing, are you caring about what others think of you? If you are, you need to reset your brain a little bit. It's one life. You're not here to impress other people. You're here to be the best person you can and to contribute and make society a better place along with yourself. Also, are you a positive light for others? Do you have a purpose? Simple things on the daily. How do you spend your mornings? How do you spend your evenings? What are your habits? Can you be better each day, each week, each month, each year? Simple habits you can develop. Reading. What kind of books are you reading? Are you putting in your head the right mental input to make you a better person? Or are you making things more dramatic and feeding yourself drama, negativity, which in the subconscious mind, that's going to develop anxiety and it's going to manifest in a physical form later on. Other things, who do you argue with every so often? And are those arguments worth it? What excites you? You have to ask that question. Look in the mirror and say, what excites you? Hobbies, anything you're passionate about, pursue those. Those could be the dreams you haven't even realized yet. Also, who are you treating well in your life, and who do you need to treat better? Those are things you need to acknowledge, because the people you're treating well, keep that going. That's great. But who are some people you're leaving by the wayside? People that maybe need you, or maybe you need them. You need to consider that. Also, as you look in the mirror, what are your flaws? Nobody's perfect. If somebody says that they're perfect, that person's not real at all. How is your ego affecting how you act and how you think? Are you playing? Are you playing each day? Meaning, are you having fun each day? Or are you working? Are you too task-oriented? Me, myself, I used to always be task-oriented. I had some people in my life, including my wife, basically said, I need to play more. And when you do that, you are more efficient at those tasks you want to accomplish because you have that release time. Also, how can you learn from other people's mistakes besides your own? Sometimes you need to learn from people, and you also need to learn sometimes from those people how not to do things. So be aware of that. Also, are you asking enough questions? All right, ask enough questions. Be that person that questions the mob. The mob mentality is not always right. The mass of people, the masses, are not always right. Always look on the other side to see to where the flaw is. And lastly, what are you rushing to? Who are you rushing for? On Long Island and in New York, we're always rushing to get around, to get things done. People are honking at each other in the streets. But what are we rushing to? And we need to remember that, because as we rush, we're missing the moment. And when you miss the moment, you're missing out on the just daily occurrences in life. Now, some of the slides we're going to show, they're going to overlap. Some might be repetitive, but again, the overarching theme of this session is basically talking about your life and having one life with limited time. And I really think we need to hammer that home, where it's limited. We eventually will not be here. I know it sounds depressing to think like that, but we have to keep that mindset, because if you have that, it won't be miserable to think about it. It'll actually motivate you to do great things, knowing that your time here is limited. And not only the time piece, but how happy will we be during that time? We want to have peace. We want to have mental peace during that time. And we want to make sure that we are content with what we're doing in our lives. Not content to the point where you become lazy and just satisfied with the status quo, but just having that mental peace, knowing that you are doing all you can and you're satisfying everything that you can possibly satisfy from, how you think of yourself, your relationships and all that. That will definitely take you farther. Somebody that I mentioned in a previous session, who I take a lot of advice from, he actually just put a book out, and I follow him on Twitter. His name is Naval Ravikant, and he has a great quote, which is, he says that the desires we have are contracts with ourselves to be miserable until we obtain those desires. And that's something that he references in, he had a Twitter storm a while back where he just tweeted out a bunch of great information and quotes talking about these desires, where he mentions that a sick person wants one thing, and that one thing is health. But a healthy person has thousands of wants and desires when they're healthy. So we have to keep in mind, what's the most important thing in life is your health. And not obviously physical health, but our mental health as well. And that's something that we have to take care of. And again, controlling our inputs on the daily to make sure our subconscious mind is at peace. Because again, that will manifest into bad things later. Also, it's just not desires, but what are we focusing on? Are we finding solutions to our problems, or are we complaining? Something else I heard along the line was that we are only as strong as our smallest complaint. So think about, what are we complaining about? What are you complaining about? I constantly think about that. The people I'm around, I hear the complaints and I say, that's not a huge deal in the scheme of life, because what you realize is that one thing you're complaining about today, maybe tomorrow you forgot about that complaint and you have a new complaint. So if your original complaint was that big of a deal, you wouldn't forget about it so quickly. So it's just something where you have to focus on the positive in life and what means the most and what means the most to you and set those priorities. So something that's a big deal, if it's not a big deal the next day, it wasn't a big deal to begin with. And you have to try to reset your brain to consider what a catastrophe actually is. Because I think some of us make catastrophes out of nothing, and we have to be more objective with what happens. And remember, things are going to happen in life. It's inevitable, but it's about how we react to those things. And what happens is when we get our emotions involved, we can make something that happens. When you look at it objectively, it's something that happens and we have to deal with it. But when you get the emotions involved, that's where it becomes catastrophic sometimes and, quote, the end of the world. And it's never that bad. And you always have to think that to yourself. Also, I sometimes, when I go out to eat, we go to restaurants. We don't go often, but when we do, I was at this really nice restaurant one time. It's this beautiful steakhouse. And I was watching what people were, how they were eating, and how the food was dressed, and the decor, and the whole show. And I just looked and I said, "Wow, people are spending hundreds, sometimes maybe thousands of dollars on these meals, where they could maybe be spending it somewhere else. And is it really worth it for something that's going to be over in a couple of hours?" And yes, you want to go out and enjoy friends and quality time with people, but when you see what people are putting in their bodies and how we celebrate as a society, sometimes it just makes you think like, is that all worth it? The show, the big show, the big meal, things like that. It's just something that for me, as I looked around, it made me feel a little guilty knowing that some people can't have this. And I'd rather live modestly and eat modestly most of the time, just so I know that I'm putting my efforts and energy towards quality things in life. Now on this slide, I'm definitely a bit partial to the lead singer of Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder. I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, and I think his lyrics really can guide you through life if you want to really take a deep dive into his songs. And it's not just about the melodies, but the lyrics, the true poetry. And one of his songs called "Society," it's off of the Into the Wild soundtrack, which he did himself, the entire soundtrack. This quote here: "It's a mystery to me. We have agreed with which we have agreed. And you think you have to want more than you need. Until you have it all, you won't be free." The biggest piece there, and it kind of refers to the last slide, was that people have their lives ruled by desires. So the more you want, the more miserable you'll possibly be, because you cannot possibly obtain every single thing you want. You can obtain the things, I believe, that are intangible. But when people continue to want tangible material objects, and as they say, try to keep up with the Joneses, when you continue to crave things and objects and material things, that's something where, yeah, you'll eventually maybe obtain certain things, but that's not going to give you eternal peace and long-lasting happiness. One of the things I always say to myself, whether it's before I go to bed or early in the morning, is I'll say, under good grace, I just want myself, me and my family, to have an abundance of health, wealth, happiness, peace, love, laughter, and harmony. Now it seems like, wow, that's a lot you need to go right in your life. But when you start to guide your life by those principles, and if those are the important things, that's when you obtain those, that's where you'll find happiness. Your happiness is not going to be in buying a new car. That will last for a short amount of time, but it's not going to really make you at peace. It will make you happy, but it may not put you at peace. And that's something where, in this song here, Society, that Eddie Vedder sings about, where it's basically saying society, everyone kind of goes, the masses go in the same motion to obtain the same things. But what he says, and even in private interviews, where it's okay to retreat from society, find that quiet to make sure that you're doing what you want to do and not what the masses are doing. Because what's right for all is not always what's right for you. So keep that in mind as you move forward, to have that right mental space so that you know where you're going and you're not being guided by other people. besides this being a really cool picture, I think it just really hits home to what I want to speak about on this slide. The world, the universe is a huge place, and we are a very small speck on the radar of what's really out there. I think right now we don't even know what's out there. I mean, we kind of know, but I think there's more to it, and we'll learn more as we progress towards the future even more. But looking at the universe and the world, the way things work, things don't happen by accident, and I truly believe that. I think for yourself, it's you're thinking about one thing, and if you could take that one thing and put enough thought and passion into it, you can make a lot of things happen off of that and have that one thing or one dream come true. So a lot of times we have thoughts and we get lost in our thoughts, but thinking about it is one thing, but actually putting that thought into words and saying your vision, manifesting it, putting it together, and watching it manifest is a magical thing. But when you have those thoughts and you say it and you put it into the universe with words, like as you look at this slide, there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of magical things out there, and we don't know why they happen, but there's a reason why they happen, and certain things are attracted to one another. And when you put things out into the universe and you envision this world as this magical place, you can really bring your thoughts and dreams to another level. So don't keep everything in your head. Put it on paper, put it out there, speak about it, talk about it, and definitely talk about it as if it has happened already. Because the way the universe works is that might come back to you, and it most likely will happen if you put the right effort and energy towards it, and if you surround yourself with the right people to accomplish that goal. Also, make sure you tell that vision to the right people. Sometimes if you tell it to somebody who's a negative Nelly, they might squash it somehow with their energy. So again, you're probably saying, what is this guy talking about, these energies? But the universe is made out of energies, magnets that are attracted to one another, and everyone's a vibrating piece of something. And if you're vibrating at that right frequency, you're going to attract what you need and want to attract, and you'll find that peace and happiness. So keep in mind, you can attract amazing things. You can make miracles happen. And that's something you need to keep in mind. And at the end of each day, reflect on the good things that happened in your life and in your world. Because a lot of the coincidences that you think are just coincidences, they're not just good luck events. You may be fortunate, but I really don't think that things happen by accident. There is a reason for everything, and those coincidences that you think are just that's weird, that's just random luck. There's a reason for it. You need to reflect back onto why it happened, and if you had something to do with it, and if you didn't, think about the signs that are there, and why it happened, the reason again, and you'll be better off for it, knowing and being aware of why it happened, because you'll understand it, and it will help you grow and appreciate what you have. Now, we spoke about retreating from society, getting to know yourself, finding that mental peace, that mental calm. This is the last slide for session 5. And on this slide, just want to take a second again, as the picture shows, just to kind of get away from it all, get away from the craziness, the hecticness, so you have time to think. For me personally, if I don't have time to think during my day, at the end of that day, I feel all off kilter a little bit. I don't feel centered. I don't feel grounded. And then if you start one day feeling like that, you go to the next day and you're still carrying with you that unbalanced feeling. And when you start the day feeling unbalanced and not grounded and not centered, it can kind of throw your day off a little bit. But again, that's only for those who are aware of that. Some people aren't aware of it. And it's something where I'm not saying I'm leading the perfect life here at all, but I'm just saying that the quicker I became aware of that, the more I was in tune with myself and how I felt centered and grounded. That was how I kind of ruled my life, knowing what I was feeling at peace and how I can perform better when I felt better. But the one thing we really need to do is it's okay to go quiet. It's okay to get quiet, and it's okay to get private. So get as private as you can sometimes. Take that time. Sometimes the most important conversation you can have is with yourself, not other people, and just reflect a little bit on what you're doing. And when you retreat, you start to learn about yourself and what your actions are. And the quicker you learn about what you're about, sooner than later, you're going to ascend quicker than you think. And when you hit that reset button, maybe you have a bad day, but sometimes it's okay to have a bad day because it allows you to see what you're doing wrong, and you could reset and start fresh the next day. And also remember, each day we're responding to other people. We're responding to everyone's questions and demands and their actions. But remember, respond to yourself. You're feeling a certain way, respond to yourself and how you're feeling so that you can fix what you need to fix to have that mental peace and mental calm. And when you get into that flow, it feels good. You know when you're in the flow, you know when your momentum is going in the right direction. And that when you feel that momentum, you feel like you can accomplish anything. And that's why I say you can attract miracles, you can attract amazing things. You just have to be in that flow, and you'll be amazed at what happens in the universe. And a few things I do each day, I don't do them every day, but I try to do a couple of these each day, is I try to read something positive or something that's going to make me a better person. I try to write or journal about what's happening in my life or any ideas I have. Try to exercise as much as I can. It is tough because I have young kids, but when you try to do it, it feels great and it resets that brain. Also, meditating is something, again, to find that calm and to reset and retreat from society a bit, just to find yourself, ground yourself, so that once you're grounded, you know where you're going. You can start running as fast as you can going forward once you have that mental capacity. So again, thank you so much for listening to session 5 of Mindset Match. I thank the Sachem Public Library and look forward to next month's session. And thank you again all for listening in. Have a great one.